The desk was old. It always sat in the back left corner of the classroom, and it was always empty. It was just one of the things that made going to Miss Brown's math class less than tempting. To be fair, I was in the 7th grade, so it's not like any other class was tempting to go to anyways. But this class was especially off-putting. The atmosphere in the classroom was downright spooky. Miss Brown, while on the surface very approachable, had an aura about her that creeped a lot of students out. In her late 50s, most assumed, she had stringy brunette hair. Hair that probably used to glow, but now resembled only a dull brown with some gray mixed in. Piercing green eyes that seemed to stare right through you. And she always wore a long black skirt that didn't quite touch the ground. Her obsession with that desk didn't help. The entire room had been remodeled just a few years prior, so everything in it was relatively new, except for the desk. The desk looked like it was straight out of some log cabin that had been abandoned in the woods for 50 years. It had pencil scribbles all over and some random words chiseled into it. Most notably was the maroon red stain on one of the legs that no one ever happened to do anything about. Being 7th graders, we all made up stories about the origin of the stain, or just the desk in general. But at the end of the day, while we all made up our stories and joked about the old desk, everyone refused to sit in it. It certainly didn't help that Miss Brown had been known to lash out at most students who didn't dare sit in it. I still remember that day perfectly. It was a spring day, one where the sun would shine through the blinds that Miss Brown usually kept shut. The classroom had a glow to it on this day, and Miss Brown seemed on edge. It probably didn't help that it was Friday during 6th period. The weekend was near, and all the students had a certain giddiness to them. It all started when Miss Brown and my buddy Luke got into a small back and forth over the answer to some math question we were working on. If you know Luke at all, you would most definitely expect this out of him. While he had a great heart, he had a tendency to talk back to teachers on occasion. I think he thought more about girls and thought that they would like him if he did this or something stupid like that. You know, middle schoolers are weird. The back and forth carried on until Miss Brown blew up. She started screaming. An unnerving scream. A scream that could only come from someone who believed they were in true danger. This didn't make sense to any of us. We were just kids, and none of us had experienced anything like a mental breakdown before. She screamed for what seemed like minutes, and suddenly, just like that, she stopped. This eerie, creepy smile slowly spread across her face. She walked to Luke and asked him to get up and go sit in the old desk at the back of the classroom. Without much hesitation, he did just that. Miss Brown returned to the front of the class and just stared at all of us. And when she was done staring, she spoke one line before walking out of the room. My work here is done. We all just sort of assumed class was dismissed, so shortly after the incident, we all got up and left. 4 days later, Luke's mangled body was found in a plastic bag on the side of the main road, heading through our town. No one knew what happened, how it happened, or why it happened. All that had been known was that Luke disappeared in the middle of the night, early Saturday morning. There was no trace of any foul play. No evidence of fingerprints or anything like that had been found. It was almost like he just got up and walked out into the night. Even more suspicious was the fact that Miss Brown never returned after that Friday. Rumors circulated about where she'd gone. Some said she went to teach elsewhere. Some said she died. I'd even go as far as to say I have memories of getting out of school, looking down the road and seeing a lady in a long black skirt watching the students as we left school. I asked my mom about her a couple times, but always got the same deadbeat response that she hadn't heard anything. Before Luke was found, I sat in that math class on Monday. I could have sworn that the red stain on the old desk had grown larger, but it was probably just my imagination. With Miss Brown out and us having a substitute that day, I decided to get a closer look at the desk after class. What caught my attention was the fact that all of the pencil scribbles on it were names. I counted 4 or 5, but in the top right corner of the seat was a name I had never seen there before: Luke. 30 years later, and I still remember the day with great detail. There are a lot of days where I think about what would have came of Luke and I's friendship if we had a chance to experience growing up together. It's okay, though. The old desk lives with me now. It sits up in storage in my attic. My family doesn't know about it. No one does. Sometimes when I'm home alone, I'll go up to the attic and find the chair. Amidst the pitch-black darkness, I'll sit down in it and close my eyes. Within what feels like an abyss, I always see Miss Brown's piercing green eyes, and in a twisted way, it seems to comfort me. Something in her made me do it. Something in that desk made me do it. I'm not a human capable of murder, but on that day, 30 years ago, I was.